I will show you my favorite way to create Afro rhythms and to not only create them, but to progress them into a full track. And if you're a beginner to Afro House, you're definitely going to enjoy this video. Let's dive right in. So we're going to start from an empty Ableton Live session here. We have one single MIDI track loaded, and if you don't have one, or if you want to create one, just right click, insert MIDI track, or as you can see, the command is Command Shift and T. So you can also hit Command Shift and T. There you go. Those are probably one of my most used shortcuts. Command T is an audio track, Command Shift T MIDI track. Really important to keep that in mind because it saves you tons of time, believe me. In this MIDI track, we're going to load up this Max for Live device called Instant Afro. I have to give credit to Beat Lab Academy. It's a YouTube channel that is no longer active. The owner now has a new YouTube channel called Sidebrain, which I watch regularly for inspiration, so I highly suggest you check him out. And this rack is not available on his site anymore, but I managed to find it somewhere in the internet. I'm just going to make it available as a link down below. And this Instant Afro rack is, to put it simple, designed to give you Afro rhythms in an instant, and it just spits out MIDI information that is meant to be used with a drum rack. If we hit play, nothing happens. You can see some kind of MIDI notes being triggered by each and every single one of these patterns or instruments in this case, but we need some kind of a drum rack to actually be able to play sounds. What you can do is click on drums here on the side panel. You can then load up the drum rack, and then you could fill out these individual pads with one-shots or just short drum snippets. In this case, I'm going to delete this drum rack. I'm going to hit Command X to cut the device. It's easier than to reach out and hit delete. I just hit Command X to take away the devices, as you can see here. For those users who have Ableton Live 12, there are these really cool expansion kits that you can download off their site. This one is called Lost and Found, and it even has a couple drum kits that are MPE enabled. So if you have a push, this is great. And this Zither percussion kit that you get down here goes really well with Instant Afro. You can just load it up in here. But again, there's a ton of different packs. There's a ton of different drum kits that you can download either from Ableton's site directly or somewhere else on the internet. The best way to start, in my opinion, is to just go into drums and see what you have in this panel down here. So if I hit play now, it's literally giving you an instant Afro rhythm, which is really nice. So each and every single one of these cells here corresponds to a specific instrument. Each of these is also triggering a specific note, like the kick is triggering C1, and C1 on our drum rack is right here. And if you hover over this pad, you can see on the bottom left corner of my screen that this is C1. If you hover over the next pad over here, you can see that this is C#1. So you can figure out which of these little cells is triggering which pad, and you can also change the note. So let's say you don't want your snare to be on D1, you can select a different note. Let's keep on going. Really interesting. Where it starts getting fun is when you switch through these individual patterns here to get different types of rhythms. Oh. One of my favorite functions to use is randomize. So you can randomize just the patterns, let's say. You can also randomize the velocity. That's a bit loud, so let's tune it back down a bit. Just tweak the velocities to a lower range, velocity high, velocity low. In this Zither percussion kit, for example, you get a couple of these different variations. So you can hit play on each and every single one of these macro variations, right? And if you don't see this panel, you can just open it here. Now this sounds a bit more tribal, Magic Box. Crisp. Slightly more aggressive, and then we got sharp, the preset that we used before. And again, just to demonstrate that it's also possible to do this with other kits, I'm going to delete the Zither percussion kit, drag and drop the Vibrance kit, put it right after Instant Afro. This is, again, just another kit that I found in my collections over here. And if I hit play, and I'm going to initialize the Instant Afro rack over here. You get like these literally instant Afro rhythms, which can be really fun to tweak with. A feature that I love about Ableton Live 12 is sample similarity swap. So you can hit this icon over here and swap through each and every single one of these sounds, and it'll basically it'll scroll through your entire library and find sounds that are already similar to what's loaded inside here. And then you could just hit play and keep scrolling. Let's keep going. You could just scroll through the snare. You could spend the whole day just doing that. This one sounds interesting, but I don't like the snare. Yeah, this one's nice. I'm just going to keep this, and now I'm going to create a new audio track. Hit resampling. So in the input section of the track, you want to hit resampling, or you could also take audio from the track directly, and this one's named MIDI. We could also rename it into Afro. So in the input section, click Afro, record arm your track, and then hit record. Nice. And I'm going to mute the Afro rack since I already have some kind of a percussion groove going on over here. And now I can just load up a kick. I'm going to go into Afro, see if I can get some kind of a nice kick one shot. 808 kicks always go well with Afro House. So I'm going to hit Command, Shift, and T to create a new MIDI track. In that MIDI track, we're going to load up this shifted 808 kick. Set the right start position over here. Make sure that we don't have any effects loaded after the kick. We're gonna keep it clean today. Double click to create a MIDI clip. And this one is going to be 2 bars long since we have 2 bars selected. Oh, double click, scroll. There we go, 2-bar MIDI clip. In this panel over here, we want to create, let's say, 4 to the floor. So typical for house, Afro House. Right click, then go to 4th. Place your kick on 1/4 beat. You can select this 4th beat, hit Command L to loop it. You see that 2-bar MIDI clip already has that 4x4 kick groove loaded. And since this is looped, it's indicated also by these little markers here. So you can just drag your MIDI clip along the timeline for however long you want. Now you could go back to the main timeline by clicking here. A quicker way to do so is by hitting Shift and Tab. Shift and Tab is literally the most used shortcut that I use. Just Shift and Tab to switch between these 2 views. And let's see what we got. That sounds kind of cool. And then we can start mixing the percussion groove in, find the right sweet spot for the level here. Or we could also send it into these return tracks over here. And if you don't see them, in Ableton Live 10 and 11 and previous versions, you'll see a little R button down here. But in the new version of Live 12, you got to go into View, Arrangement Track Controls, and then you can blend in your return tracks over here or blend them out as I just did. So again, View, Arrangement Track Controls, Return Tracks. There you go. And if you hit Command Option T, you create these return tracks. Or you could just right click, insert return track, and you also see the command for Windows or whatever you're using. So we could create these return channels, add some effects, and keep in mind that you'll have to set these to 100% wet because return channels are meant to return the fully affected signal. So what we could do is just chuck this one into return channel A. This one is A, B, C, D, A, room. I have this little room reverb loaded up on here, and then we can just tweak our settings here. Shorter decay perhaps. So the percussion is already in some kind of a little room. I'm going to group these 2 together into, let's call them drum GRP, drum group. Let's rename this one into perk and this one into kick. Command R is the command that I use for renaming tracks. And on the drum group, we're going to load this effect called drum bus, which I love. You can find it in audio effects, drum bus, put it on the drum group. And it has this pre-built compressor, which I like using. However, it does boost the volume by a lot. So you're going to have to compensate for that boost here by either dragging down the dry wet or the output gain over here. And then you can emphasize the transients by going to the left here, which always works well for Afro House, a really short and snappy signal. But if you want to emphasize shakers a bit more, you can go to the right. This basically just emphasizes the sustain, makes it feel more draggy. So this one feels snappy, this one feels really draggy. Right? You could go ham and just crunch, boom, which I don't really like in this case. Gonna keep it rather subtle, yeah? I like the way it just brings out the kick a bit. Let's say you want to go into more of a melodic section now. Then you could create a new audio track by hitting Command T and give this a different color, preferably blue, because I like my melodies and pads to be blue. And I have a few samples in Afro. All of my packs contain some kind of pad sound or atmosphere. I'm going to go into Afro, go into song starters. Anything really works. Just take this, for example, put it onto the track directly, double click the sound. You can see that you have these little sections that you can select here. By going to right click, you can see which grid mode you're in. Right now, adaptive grid. Let's change it to 16th. So 16th notes. You could also change it to 8ths. Just select 1, 2, 3, or 4 of these 8th notes. Let's select 3, Command L to loop it up, and then hit play. Okay, I don't like that spot, so what we're going to do is search through a different section of the sound here. Yes, gimme. I like that. Let's add some more effects. Let's go again, Shift and Tab to move out of this panel and send it into our return channel B and C. So we want some black hole reverb, which is like this really freaking spacey reverb. I love it. And C, we have an echo with a bit of the lows taken out. I don't really like too much lows in my echo or delayed signal. It's just a dotted 8th note, which adds some rhythmic variety. So send it into B and C. And you can see that the sample is labeled C min, which is C minor, minor being a very melancholic scale. Now you can search for chords or something in tune to that scale. I'm just going to take chords, for instance, and drag and drop it into my track. It automatically creates an audio track for me here. Dial down the volume, hit play. How about we send that also into track B, reverb. Into C. I'm going to go back into the song starter sample and see if we can maybe find a better spot. You can also change the warp mode to beats forward transient, so it becomes very snappy, and dial down the transients here. Yeah, dude. And what I do from here is just continue to add sounds that are within the same harmonic scale of C minor. You could also take another sound. We have one in C sharp. C sharp is 1/2 tone step above C. So double click, pitch it down 1/2 tone step. Nice. These tom grooves and percussive bass stabs, they usually tend to go quite well with Afro House because it's more of a tribal sound, more of a drum-like sound. And sometimes if I don't like the chord progression and I want to keep it more underground, what I do is then double-click my chord and also here select a certain snippet, either 3 or 4/8 notes. So highlight, Command L. I usually like selecting the tails over here because they sound more subtle. We can also select these beginning parts over here. Just scroll through the sound until we find something nice. Yeah, I like this one the most, to be honest, because it's very subtle. Now let's add some shakers to make it vibe. Loose shakers. 19 is nice. Let's go for it. And shakers, I usually like to keep them subtle, especially in Afro House. In like the organic house, All Day I Dream type vibe, they're usually a bit louder. But in this case, really subtle shakers. What you could do is pan one shaker to the left and select a second shaker layer, like this one, and pan it to the right and just mix them in here, right? And to top it off, we could select some kind of a vocal. Now, this one could work. I haven't really listened to it, but it's in the key of F minor. So we'll have to pitch it down 5 half-tone steps to match the key of C minor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hit play. Okay, F minor to C minor may be too much. We could select A minor, perhaps. Yeah, this one could fit. So A minor. can just do this by ear. Just find the right pitch by ear, go into Complex Pro, find the right envelope settings so it sounds natural. And then you can also extend your loop over here. Also send this one into your return channels. Mini break. Nice. And at any time, you could just bring back those chords. Drag this clip here, right click, show in browser to find the original sample, and put it back here. And just have some fun. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. Hit that like button, that subscribe button if you enjoyed this content and want to see more. And if you like these sounds, you can just head on over to lotustunes.com, where I have a lot of different sounds for many different genres, mainly Afro House, Organic House. Feel free to check it out. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.